13th class of astrology and mythology and psychology and all those good things. And we have right now 2 students online, Jared and Destiny. And we're going to have, I'm sure, Vanita soon. She should be checking in. And I also invited Sherry Jankowicz if she comes on. She didn't have a camera, but I did invite her. So we're talking right now about reading the cosmic key chart of Destiny, because she's going on a trip to Portugal and to Italy on Sunday. And we wanted to kind of just check out that chart. So let me get back to sharing the chart. Okay, and I want to also invite you out there that are going to be watching this on YouTube to please look into reading my book. It's called The Greatest Story Never Told. And it's a book that will change your life. I promise you, if you read it from cover to cover. It will, it's chapter by chapter. Each chapter is almost like a new subject in a new book. But it's got all 5-star reviews on Amazon. It's been reviewed by 2 of the top scholars in the world, one of which said it should be compulsory reading for every thinking individual. It's on astrology, mythology, psychology, and scriptures. It's called The Greatest Story Never, not ever, never told. And it's on Amazon. You can get it there. Also, I have another book out, which is on predictions and predicting events. And that's called The Cosmic Key to Astrological Prediction. And we're using that process right now to look at Destiny's chart as she's coming into a trip, coming up on a trip here soon. So can you all see this chart now?
Yes.
It shows up good. Okay. All right. So we care only about 3 things in the cosmic clock, and that's all 28 cycles, 28 days, 28 years. And those cycles are the progressed moon, which takes roughly about 28 years to circuit the chart from the time you're born. So if it takes 2 times, it would be 56 years, right? To go around that chart. The progressed moon, and that is in this chart, is sitting at 5 degrees Pisces. So we want to look at this and see what aspects it's making. And this 5 degrees, it's almost 6 degrees Pisces. So if we look around the chart, we say, what's going on with the aspects of that moon? And we see in the natal chart, which is the inner chart, out here is the progressed chart. I only care about one thing when I look at a progressed chart, and that's the moon. The moon is 5 degrees Pisces. Remember, I told you it's a 28-year cycle. Saturn transit's the other thing we look at. And this is not a transit chart out here. This is a progressed chart. If we come back over to display the transit chart, we get this. We see Saturn is sitting at 19 degrees Aquarius. It's sitting right on top of her moon. So we say, oh my gosh, let's get scared about that because that's Saturn, right? Well, Saturn or Satan, the devil, and all that stuff. But the thing is that Saturn is only going to cause problems if you've got some karma or duty to pay. Saturn's like the prosecutor in heaven. It's there to test us. It's there to exact karma. What you sow, you reap. Saturn is always called the reaper. So Saturn is the reaper, and it will bring to your experience those things that you need to be taught a lesson. Sometimes it's negative, sometimes it's positive. If you want to understand Saturn, think of Santa Claus. The word Santa, S-A-N-T-A, if you transliterate the letters, you'll find out it says Satan, not Santa. And that's who Santa Claus was meant to depict. In Europe, Santa Claus was not a fat, roly-poly guy. He only got fat when he came to America, as everybody does in America. So what happens here? So Saturn was the rewarder of them that did good. You got toys and gifts if you were good. If you were naughty, you got rocks in your stocking, and that was in Europe. That's the way things were. It doesn't carry over to United States. We don't use rocks in our children's stockings if they've been naughty. But that was where this all started, and where the story started. Santa Claus was a parody of Saturn or Satan. Okay, so there's other ways I could show you all that, but let's not get into it right now. Right now, I just want you to understand that you don't prophesy something that's not in the natal chart. And this is so important as astrologers for you to understand. Most people would say, oh my gosh, Saturn's on top of my moon. Well, what should I expect from that? It's also conjunct the sun, because your sun is at 21 degrees of Aquarius. And so it's setting off all these planets basically. And that means that there's a lot of activity going on in her life right now. One of them is going to be expenses. So I think your savings are going to be sucked up real quick with this aspects, all these aspects. But the nice thing is that we got the sun being triggered. And what does the sun represent in your chart? Did anybody want to answer that? Is somebody else here?
I'm here.
Vanita's here.
Oh, okay. Great.
I think that's Vanita. I'm
Awesome.
getting Jared again. Are you there, Jared?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here.
Okay. I guess it wasn't Vanita. Okay, so, okay.
Yeah. So to answer your question, the sun represents the willpower, and many other things, but the will is where I tend to go to first with the sun.
Okay. What happens when we celebrate our birthday? Have you ever thought about it? The birthday is a celebration of our birth, but what do we do when we have a birthday? We throw a party?
Yes.
Or if we're lucky and we have friends, we have a great gathering of friends and associates, and we get gifts, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay, that tells you a little bit about how the sun's working in your chart. This is a time for you to party. Okay,
Okay.
see, Saturn's triggering the sun and the moon. Okay,
Yep.
okay, so it's also a time where you may be seeing and experiencing a lot of relationship things with your mother. That's the moon, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Mhm.
Also, it's a time when you may receive gifts. Somebody will bestow gifts upon you. It could be
Okay.
could be flowers. It could be, because it's a celebratory time.
Okay.
Okay. So
Yep.
you picked a good time to make this trip to Portugal.
Well, yeah, I found it fascinating that those planets were in the 9th house too, because I was like, astrology, it's just always amazing.
It is amazing. So you've got Italy, and you've got Portugal, and you've got what, 2 weeks?
2.5 weeks, almost 3 weeks. I get back on Friday and I fly out on Sunday. So two days apart from 3 weeks.
That's great. A lot of good time. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited.
So are you gonna see anybody there that you're not gonna see Harry, are you?
No.
All right.
I have not, I have
Okay.
not spoken to him in almost 2 years now it'll be. So yeah, definitely not him.
Cool.
My friend Andrew's trying to get his citizenship over there, so I may connect with him. And then I am seeing my old teacher that when I studied abroad in Florence. My manager is here, Ron, so I will be back though. She just came on the call.
Okay, good.
I'll be back.
Enjoy.
Okay.
Take
Thank you.
off. Okay, bye. So Destiny will be back. She has to talk to her manager for a minute, maybe 5 or 10 minutes, whatever it takes, maybe
Okay.
half an hour. But she'll come back on board when she's done. And I see we never got Vanita on board with us. But let's keep on going here. I wanted to get you really familiar with the cosmic key, Jared.
Okay,
You've got it on your computer now, don't you?
I do, yes.
Thank God for that. By the way, Destiny has the she has the program, but she doesn't know
Okay.
how to help. And I told her, I'm sure you would help her. You might want
Yeah,
to set it up for her because you know you've done it already. And it'd be
yes.
easy for you to go on her computer and do it for her. She has an older model operating system with Mac. And
Okay.
so, do you think there's ever going to be a possibility we can get this into a 64-bit program?
No, there's no way to, so the program itself can never be modified to be a 64-bit program. That's just the way it is. It's stuck
Okay.
the way it is. The best thing we could do, which is quite the process, is to get it to run on a 64-bit computer. It is possible to do so, but it's a lot of work. I mean, it's actually, you know, it's a job that's going to take some hours for sure,
Yeah.
but it is possible.
You told me there was a challenge with these new computers, operating systems, not so much it, but the new, what's it called? M.
The ARM, yeah, the M1 and M2 technology. It's relatively complicated to explain, but they changed the architecture of the CPU, which makes it so it's impossible to use the older architecture. So,
Okay.
you know, that's the problem.
Okay. Well, we're going to be just a few of us that have it. Thank God you still have,
Mhm.
the operating system from previous times. So
Yeah, you know, long term for me, I'd try to see if there's a way I can recreate this software. To be honest with you, I mean, it may take some time, but it is possible to recreate it, you know, in a newer version that does the same or similar things.
well, that's that's a gift to you if you could do it, and you
Mhm.
could easily market it, and I would love to see you have it so you can make it available to your students eventually.
Right. Yeah, I would love to.
So we were talking about the cosmic key and the chart with destiny. And I was trying to remind you all, it's so important. Do not prophesy something that's not in the root of the tree. If
Okay.
the chart's natal chart does not predict something, don't predict it because you see Saturn doing something on top of one of those planets. It's not necessarily negative. It can be, as I mentioned, Santa Claus bringing good gifts. It can be the experience of a very positive experience of being rewarded for your hard work and your discipline. That's what Saturn wants from you. It wants hard work, wants discipline. Okay, so if you're exercising these positive attributes in your life, you don't have to fear Saturn. If you've got a lot of guilt, if you've got a lot of bad actions in your life, you'll get punished by your own soul will punish you. It's not always like, oh, somebody out of heaven struck me down with lightning. It's like, oh, okay, I think you deserve to experience a little bit of what you handed out before. And if you're going to be acting this way, we're going to return the favor. That's what Saturn's good at doing.
Okay.
As you judge, you'll be judged. Okay.
Right.
So you have to be careful in our life. We have to be wary and aware that whatever we're sowing, we're going to reap. And if we're sowing good things, then we don't have to worry about it. If we're being disciplined and showing those qualities that Saturn likes, it rewards us with promotions. Saturn can give you a promotion. It can give you a big amount of recognition in your life, okay, as well as can be infamy or it can be fame. It can be either one of those things, you see. So
I see.
depends on your chart. Now, so if you've got a really heavy afflicted Saturn in your chart, that can cause problems in the sense that that affliction will very often tell us that you've got a cross, you've got to bear. Maybe it's a past life thing, karmic,
Mhm.
that you will never understand. Why me? Why me? Okay,
Right.
but there's something gonna come out of it. The thing about Saturn, it's kind of like the stern father. A stern father will discipline the hell out of you if you need it and beat your little butt. But there's also another side to Jupiter, which we should be aware of, and that is Jupiter is very forgiving. Jupiter is going to get you out of things if you get in them. So if you have, let's say, Jupiter on a cross, even with Saturn, most of your experiences, if you learn the lessons of Jupiter and learn to praise and give thanks and trust in good, if you're operating on that Jupiterian level, anytime Jupiter is on a cross, it's going to redeem you. I have Jupiter on my grand cross in my chart. Okay, it's on a cross of suffering. I spent 9 years in prison. Okay, from my youth when I was a young man, for those of you who never watched the show. So in my youth, I was in a lot of trouble in 7 states for armed robberies. Never hurt anybody, took a lot of money. They called me the gentleman robber. Please, they call him gentleman robber because I wasn't really taking people's money. I was taking the business money. That was back in the days when there was money and not set credit cards in the 60s. So the reason I share that story is because I want to bring people up to date if they're watching this on YouTube. But the reason I mention that is that because I have Jupiter on the cross, it's kind of redeemed me. I have resurrected from my 9 years of imprisonment as a young man. At the age of 83, I'll be in another month or so. But the point being, in my youth, I spent 9 years studying astrology. And it gifted me, it brought me great wisdom and knowledge. I'd like to think I've got some wisdom and knowledge, right? And it brought me a lot of good in my life, okay? And hadn't been for those 9 solitudinal years in that cell, which is, to me, was like a monastery. I wasn't going anywhere. I wasn't chasing the ladies. I wasn't doing drugs and alcohol. I was in a place that I had to live with myself for 9 years and learn to live with myself and meditate, reflect, and grow in knowledge and wisdom. So the point I'm getting at is Jupiter will make a good thing out of a bad thing. If you don't believe that, think of what Jupiter is. Jupiter is Jesus, Jesus, Zeus, the archetype of Jesus, okay? And what did Jesus do? He resurrected from his cross. Okay, a lot of people have said, Ron, you've kind of resurrected in your own life from those 9 years. And that's true. And that's what Jupiter will do for you. But it takes a lot of learning. And a lot of people can can speed up that experience, is what I'm trying to say. If they'll learn what's in my book, The Greatest Story Never Told. And that if they can learn to praise and give thanks and trust in good. That's the key to it all. That's the key to life. I wrote a poem, What is Life? But love in full sway. Take it away and there's death and decay. If it's contorted and twisted around, it never leaves its infant home ground. But if its presence is stately and true, it edifies and beautifies without a cue. To me, that's what life is, love. When you stop loving yourself, you're heading for problems. You're going to get sick, you're going to have problems if you're filled with guilt. That's why forgiveness is so important. But you can't forgive others till you forgive yourself. It's so important to understand that. So the emphasis in the scriptures of forgiveness is the paramount beginning to wisdom and beginning to realize that guilt is Saturn's work. Satan, the devil, the serpent, who is called the accuser of our brother. He who accused our brethren before God both day and night. He who accused our brethren before God both day and night. And there's 2 forms accusation takes. It's accusing others, or it's accusing oneself. We call that guilt. It's all the same spirit. And it makes you sick. if you're constantly guilty and feeling remorse and living in the past, and that's what Saturn does. Saturn lives in the past. People that have a lot of Saturn problems in their chart and a lot of Saturn emphasis very often find it hard to forgive. They constantly dredging up. I have clients that I try to counsel that have these aspects, and you'll try to get them to understand they need to forgive and forget and live in the present. And you get to talking with them and you think you're making progress. The next thing you'll hear them dredge it up again. Oh yeah, but I can't forgive that son of a bitch, you know, or I can't forgive that guy. I can't forgive my ex-husband. I can't forgive. And they can't because they're stuck in the past. And as long as you're stuck in the past, you're never going to make progress in the present. You're never going to be whole and complete again. So to be in his presence is to be in the eternal present right now. It's hard to get there, but that's why we meditate. That's why we learn these techniques to try to center ourselves again. Okay. So you can't teach a client everything, but you can help guide them. And you can hope that they get the message. And I know there are some, I've done thousands and thousands of charts over the years. And sometimes I realize I'm wasting my time if I even talk about Jesus and Jesus, or if I try to talk about scriptures, I'm wasting my time because they're already closed it down. They don't want anything to do with that stuff. They're atheistic. They don't believe in anything. But I tell them they do. Somebody tells me they don't believe in this or that. I say, you believe in something. Everybody does. Whether you believe that all the life's going to be a big problem, if you believe that your women can't be faithful to you, if you believe that you're going to die before you're 30, which I have heard people say that, young people. If you believe these things, as a man believeth in his heart, Scripture says, so it is. As we believe in our heart, so it is. So we have to recognize that we are the authors, the producers, and the directors of our own being and our own future. And we're creating it all the time. You sow a thought, you reap an act. You sow an act, you reap a habit. You sow a habit, you reap a character. You sow a character, you reap your destiny. Okay? So what's all that about? That's Ralph Waldo Emerson said that. Beautiful man. Great insights. So what is our purpose here? I can't emphasize that enough. All the talk we have and all the time we spend together learning the metaphysics and learning the astrology. See, I can't separate the two. You know that by now. You get me going, I'm going to get you preaching on you, you know, because I'll be preaching a metaphysical message, not the typical Christian message, okay? But the message will be that, you know, you're here for a purpose, and that's to purify your soul. And that's scripture too. So scripture says, seeing you purified your soul in the disciplining of your spirit, in the unfeigned love of your brethren. But you can't love your brethren if you don't love yourself. That's an impossibility. A man who loves his wife loves himself, scripture says. Listen to that one. A man who loves his wife loves himself. And sometimes we're not loving to our wife or our girlfriend or our mate because we're not really happy with ourselves, okay? And we go through these moments. We're human. We're all going to have these moments, okay? And, you know, I tell my wife, I say, you know, sometimes I need solitude. I need silence. It's not because I don't love her. And very few relationships survive because they don't understand the need for their mate to have solitude and silence sometimes. The melancholy baby. That's remember the Rodin's statue of the thinker?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. That's Saturn in a way. It's that melancholy baby, okay? That melancholy feeling that you get in that mood, right? But it's okay. It's okay to be there. But you need a mate that'll respect that privacy you need and not get threatened by it. Oh my God, doesn't love me. She doesn't You know, I know she
Right.
doesn't love me because she won't talk to me right now. It's not about that. It's about saying, look, honey, I really need some space now. Please honor that and don't be upset about it. Because you get along a lot better if you can do that. Relationships are enough sometimes to struggle with, but because people don't honor these moments where we need this solitude, and it causes division instead of healing, which is I get back into my space. I say to my wife, I need space because I need to heal. Don't feel threatened by that. You understand? And if you would
I
just
totally
discuss
understand.
those things with your mate and respect those things in each other, there wouldn't be as many conflicts. What happens is if you don't recognize that, you don't see it, what will happen is you get in an argument. You get in an argument with your mate. And guess what happens? You both stomp off to your respective corners and not talk to each other, not talk to each
Anyway.
other for a day. So you achieve
Right.
the same thing, but you did it the hard way.
Right. Right.
So then you come back and, oh, honey, I love you, and I'm so sorry. But wouldn't it have been a lot better if you could have said to each other, honey, I need some space. Please don't be offended by this. I love you, but I really I need to heal.
Mhm.
Did you know every time
Yeah.
you talk, did you know when you talk? In the Sufi religion, they say if you talk too much, you become neurotic.
Mm. Wow.
But I sometimes think you're neurotic. You're neurotic because you talk too much. They go both ways. You
I see.
see what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And I
Yeah,
know
for
people
sure.
that never stop talking. We
Mhm.
had a guest in our home. She does not stop ever talking. It's like a motor that just continues and continues, and it wears me out. And I can't be
Yeah.
around her. I love her. She's a wonderful lady. We met her in
Yeah.
Aruba on a beach, her and her husband. And when they're visiting here, we let them stay with us. But I can't handle too much of it. I'll tell her. I'll tell her, and her husband will defend her. And I say, look at, there's a lot of neurosis here. You got to stop talking all the time. I can't handle this. So the bottom line is that the Sufis say if you break the circuit between the tongue and the upper cleft of the mouth for
Mhm.
too long, it breaks an electrical circuit in your brain, and it causes an electrical disconnect that'll cause problems in you. That's why silence is important. There's holy men that have never spoken for years, never said a word.
Wow. That's really interesting.
Okay,
Mhm.
so there's so many facets of knowledge that come with astrology. There's so much in the metaphysical world that the world is kind of not learned. And then we wonder why our children are going so crazy today, shooting up schools and people and killing people. And then it's like we're ignorant. We say, oh, I don't understand why the kids are doing that. But they sit in front of a computer, gaming, shooting people all day.
Mhm. Yeah.
And you wonder why they're sewing that stuff in their brain, and then they go out and they do it. You say, well, that doesn't make sense. I don't understand. I didn't do anything. Just let my kids spend all day on their computer. you know, and then they
Yeah.
wonder why their kids go crazy. You know, you know,
Yeah, they're very desensitized to all these things so early now. It's
yeah, the
really
military
amazing.
uses this kind of games, if you would, to
Mhm.
desensitize soldiers to killing.
Yeah. I
So
see.
anyway, enough of that. So I asked you if you had any questions or any particular area of interest today. I want you to express that if you have anything. If there's anything particular you want to cover, we've more than done our classes, okay? But
Yeah.
I really feel this. I feel like I know when my students are ready. I
Mhm.
really do. I've been doing this a lot of years. And I know when they're not. And I have students
Mhm.
that, I know they're not in it. They're not into it in the way others are. You're an exceptional student. I knew that from the beginning.
Mhm.
And you pick it up very quick. You're very astute. And, there's something that I see in you that is, I feel is, you're going to carry on this torch, if you would, and you're going to carry it on, and you're going to promulgate and propagate this knowledge in others. And you have to recognize that people say, oh, astrology is so self-centered. People are always into themselves so much about astrology. It's about their charts all the time. I say that's good, because there's I think what Shakespeare said, it's, how's he say it? It's know thyself, and it must follow the night the day. Thou canst then be false to any man. I love that. Okay.
Yeah, that's great.
So why do you want to learn about yourself? Because you'll learn about others by doing that. The more you understand astrology and you see it working in your own life, and you can relate it to those planetary energies and understand the mechanisms. The heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament showeth his handiwork. Night unto night showeth knowledge. It's talking about the planets declare the glory of God, and the heavens declare, and the heavens showeth his handiwork. Night unto night showeth knowledge, and day unto day uttereth speech. And there is no speech nor language where their voice is not heard. What is they talking about? It says they're because did you know that astrology is a universal language? It's spoke the same everywhere. Same symbols. China, maybe I wouldn't recognize them, but whatever. You go anywhere else, India, you'll find this astrology is basically, they use a sidereal system, but it's still, we use tropical. But the planets' energies and aspects are the same in the chart. And so continue that Psalms that says, it says the heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament showeth his handiwork. Night unto night showeth knowledge, and day unto day uttereth speech. And there is no speech nor language where their voice is not heard. And moreover, by them is thy servant warned. Did you hear that one? And by them is thy servant warned. And in keeping them, keeping what? Their positions? And in keeping them is their great reward. Their line goeth out throughout all the earth. Their line. We call them aspects. That's Psalms. Huh?
Yeah, that's so interesting that it's right there in the Bible, right in the Psalms.
It is. And so much more is in the Bible. The Christians don't want to accept astrology, but I noticed they were quick to get on these blue moons here recently, and their influence. If it fits their schema and their beliefs, they'll embrace it. But it says that stars in their courses fought against the Sarah. I asked people that are Christians, and I say, how did the stars in their courses fight against a captain in an army? He lost the battle. The stars in their courses fought against them. Huh?
Right. How does that happen?
I keep on going. The first sentence of the Bible, he created the sun, the moon, the stars for, listen to this one, for signs and for seasons. One of the professors, the scholarly professor who read my book, first thing he said when he wrote a review for my book in praising the book was, I never saw that word in that first line of the scriptures that said that he created the sign for signs and for seasons.
Wow.
People don't want to see it. If they're fundamentals, astrology is bad,
Yeah, they skip right over that part automatically almost, don't even notice it until you really bring it up and show, emphasize that it's there. A lot of people will just miss it.
That's right. It's, I don't know. I don't, people say, Ron, how do you deal with somebody that doesn't believe in astrology? I say, I don't care if they believe in it or not. I'm not here to proselytize or convert you. I could care less. If you come to me and want to learn it, I'll teach it to you. If you're really open, read my book. It'll change your life, But the point being, I would never argue with somebody about the validity of astrology. I've studied it, you haven't. So I'll say to them, I've studied it, you haven't, So, you're amongst some of the greatest minds in the world who are into astrology.
Yeah, Yeah. You were asking if there's anything I want to look at specifically. Not necessarily. I mean, do you think I'm ready, or if there's certain areas that you want to test me in and see where I'm at, and kind of feel for where
Yeah,
I'm at.
I would like to do that. I'd like to just kind of throw out some things.
Okay.
Neptune's influence is what?
It's highly spiritual, that's for sure. I look at Neptune as really one of the most spiritual planets there are. It can be, in the negative aspect, can be like self-undoing and represent a lot of those negative things like escapism, like alcoholism and drugs, and even prison, things like that, or being arrested or things like that. That would be the negative aspect. But in a positive aspect, Neptune is typically just really spiritual. And I think if there's anything else that comes to mind on the positive aspect for Neptune, for me, it's like
Well, Neptune, you said that right. And Neptune is the planet of illusions.
mhm.
It's like people are addicted to movies, for example, even TV. You ever think of what a movie is? Movie is shadows on a wall. Basically, it's
Right.
real, right? It's really illusions. But the
Right.
actors and the props and everything that it is makes it feel very real. And now we're getting into holographs, and we're getting into even more reality, seeming reality, with meta stuff,
Right.
So, it's going to keep going that way. Pretty soon you'll be able to smell something you want to smell on your TV or your whatever, your earphones.
Yeah, it's really
So
going that way, isn't it?
it
I
really
mean,
is.
is there anything else that should come to mind when I'm thinking about the positively aspect of Neptune?
It's the key word of Pisces, which is Neptune's sign, is I believe.
Okay.
So it very much reflects your belief systems. It's something that we see. Neptune is also self-denial. It's like the martyr. If I have, like I've got Neptune on my Grand Cross, I spent years feeling, why me, Lord? Why me?
Okay.
What, I don't deserve this, right? And
Right.
I'm feeling kind of like the martyr. Okay.
Okay.
So you look at people that feel like they need to experience to get holy or to get religion. They need to seclude themselves. Okay, and they go into a monastery or go in, they stop living the life that we think of as pleasurable, and they deny themselves all these pleasures, right?
Right.
So that's self-denial, and that's another thing with Neptune. And it can also be hypochondria. A lot of imagined diseases. You get a little pain, you think, oh, I better go to the doctor. I got something going wrong here. Whereas if they just sleep it off, they'd find out that they didn't need to do all that. I often think about people that have a pain or something and they run to the doctors all the time. I mean,
Oh, okay.
you know what I mean? And they're always hypochondriac. There's something, they believe they have something wrong with them. And there's people that go in the hospital all the time because they think they're sick. And they waste a lot of money and time with the doctors trying to find something that's wrong with them. That's kind of a Neptunian thing.
Okay. That
Okay.
makes sense.
So Neptune rules thieves as well. It's like self-undoing, sorrow, all the things of Christ. Christ was the ushering in of the Piscean age. He was bringing out, ending the Aryan age. He says, I'm the last sacrifice to end all sacrifices, because he was trying to close down the age of Aries, which was Mars ruled. Okay, killing of sheep, and Moses introduced that age of Aries, and he closed down the age of Taurus. He says, stop worshiping golden calves. It's not about gold and money and all that stuff. And about the golden calf, they built another one when he went up on the mountain. They built another golden calf. He was very angry about that. He said, stop this. Now it's about the blood of the lamb. Put it on your doorpost, and guess who will be saved? Your firstborn. What's Aries? The first sign, firstborn. When he spoke to the burning bush, Moses said, Lord, who am I going to say sent me? He's given the key words of the new age. The Lord spoke to him. It's in the burning bush and said, you tell him that I am sent you. Ah, key word of Aries. Okay. Moses killed a man. Do you know that? He was
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he killed a servant, one of the servants of the Pharaoh. And he went on a run and he had to leave town, propped him. So, he lived up to all the archetypes of Aries. You see that?
I see. It's really interesting.
Yeah. So all of this is written in the heavens, so to speak. These whole
Yeah.
stories, they're all written in the heavens so that them that run may read. Okay. So then we had Christ usher in the Piscean era. He made his disciples 12. What sign is Pisces? The 12th sign. He made them fishers of men. Whoa. What's Pisces? The fish sign. His name in Greek was ichthys. It meant fish. Can you believe all this? All coincidence, right? We do water baptism. What do you think? Pisces is a water sign. He ducks you in the water like a fish and brings you back out again. Water baptism. He did there was a lot of ceremonial washing of feet. Pisces rules what? Your feet. You see all these connections?
You see.
How many do you need? I tell people, they say, it's a lot of coincidences, right? I says, keep believing it's a coincidence. There's a message in all this, okay? We've had 2,000 years of Fish Fridays. Think about it, Fish Fridays, Pisces. We've had 2,000 years of belief inculcated in our minds. Believe in the Lord Jesus Christ, and thou shalt be saved. All things are possible unto who? Them that believe. Key word, Pisces, I believe. The message of scriptures is all about that. And now we're entering the Aquarian age. Oh, what's that about?
Right.
Okay. Think about it.
Yeah. I would say, the Aquarian age is about, changing the structures like social reform and kind of,
Beautiful.
I would say leveling the playing field in a way, where it's no longer just about these large entities controlling things, but, more of the people getting some of their power back to, direct their life the way that they want to.
Exactly. Aquarius is reform. Pisces listen to this one. Pisces is a self-undone one. Pisces rules prisons, sorrow, self-undoing. It can be the priest, it can be the nun that goes into recluse and suffers or denials all her life. No more of this, no more of that. Of course, that's not what was going on, unfortunately, in the Catholic Church, much of which attracted a lot of very negative stuff. But the point being, I give thanks to the Catholic faith, not because I believe in it. I'm not I don't believe in all this stuff about the Pope and all. But what I do know is that they've conserved and reserved a lot of information I would have never gotten. For example, their celebratory days. For example, June 21st or 24th. It's called Saint John the Baptist Day. Okay, that's when the sun reaches its highest point on the ecliptic, going north, and then we have summer. Okay, 3 days and 3 nights it stays at that stationary point. Did you know that? And then it descends into the equator, the equatorial line, which is yesterday's first day of fall. Okay.
Okay.
And then it moves into the lower point of the earth, which is Capricorn, on December 24th, 21st through the 24th, 3 days. He descended into hell the sun, listen to this, he descended into hell, he stayed 3 days, and he rose again. What's this one? The sun descends into hell, Capricorn sign, the Saturn sign, okay,
Mhm.
Capricorn, and he descends into hell and he stays 3 days and then he rises again. The sun does that
Mhm.
every year. And if you draw a chart for any Christmas, okay,
Okay.
any Christmas, you'll find Virgo rising, overseeing the birth of the sun. Virgo,
Wow.
the Virgin.
Wow. That's
You
amazing.
do that anytime in any chart on any year, and you're going to find Virgo rising, overseeing the birth. I'm telling you, it's all there if people had an open mind and wanted to look into it, but it's not for everybody. Everybody's not got a metaphysical bent. Not everybody is, some people need fundamentalism. I say, if you're good,
Sure.
good to be a Seventh-day Adventist, be a good one. If you're going to be a Jehovah's Witness, be a good one. If they come to my door and knock on my door and try to proselytize me, I stop them. I
Mhm.
say, Lord, wait a minute. I don't believe being on that church on 4th and Main is so critical to me. Well, you must believe what we believe. No, I must not. Didn't you ever at one time not believe? I asked him the question. Well, yes, but I've found the light. I'm a believer. I said, well, good. Can you allow me the same courtesy as you had to not believe something? And then I also
Mhm.
told him this. I said, my Bible says, in this you shall know if you are my disciples or not, and that you have love one for another. Not if you belong to this church or that church. Not if you are Seventh-day Adventist or if you're a Jehovah's Witness. My Lord says that you're my disciples if you love each other. And that's my religion. That's what I believe. So I kind of disengage them, of course, but they're going to keep on trying. Because in numbers,
Right.
you see, in numbers, it instills their belief even more. The more they convert and can convert somebody else, it means I must be right.
Yeah, I see. It's
You got
very
it?
complex with that in that way, isn't it?
It is.
Hmm.
So
Yeah. But like you said, everyone's not going to see it, so it's okay. You know, we can help them see it just with some of the insight that we've gained by using this system. You know.
that's right. And Jerome, it's like I'm the last person to argue with somebody about their beliefs or religions.
Hmm.
Whatever they believe, that's fine. Just allow me to believe what I want to believe. Don't try to
Hmm.
force me to believe what you believe because you found your religious view of life. That's good. Just live it. Don't talk it. You be the best of
Hmm.
the Jehovah Witnesses, if that's who you are. You be the
Hmm.
best of whatever faith you have. Hindu, Buddhist,
Hmm.
it doesn't matter. Um, I have some qualms uh, uh, with the Muslim faiths, very strong problems with a lot of it. Intimidation, fear that rules people and converts them by force. I have a hard time with all that stuff. But that's not here for me to judge, and
Yeah.
it's to me that people are born into social systems that they are victim to, if you would. They really have no
Hmm.
choice. And so that's all they've been taught or all they know. But anyway, so what I want you to do is I want you to start spending time with Vanita. I don't know what
Hmm.
happened to her today. Um, I'd like you to spend time learning the cosmic key.
Okay.
It's
Yeah.
something. Go ahead.
I've been working on it quite a bit actually already. Um, of course, I can do a lot more, but I've definitely been working with a lot more in the last week or two. Just using Intrepid and kind of following along, because the one thing I really like about Intrepid is the ability to go from new moon to new moon,
It's so
and just to go through the days. Like I love being able to click through each day and see how the planets are adjusting each day or each week or each month,
right.
just as way of me understanding how these planets moved in general sense too.
It's an amazing program. It really is. I wish that, that we could get time passages to incorporate something like this into their programs. Or other programs. I don't care who does it. I've got several different programs on my computer. And, you can still do a tri-wheel on time passages. You can still get a tri-wheel. The progressions and the transits all outside the natal chart. You can do that, but it's not the same as Intrepid. I live next door to the guy that developed this program and went out to Massachusetts, and he was a genius of a guy. He really was. And he worked for AT&T and other companies. I mean, he was really a big programmer, and knew his stuff really well. But unfortunately, he passed away. And the person he sold the program to was stuck with it because he couldn't do anything with it after the operating systems changed. So anyway, well, I guess Vanita didn't make it. It wasn't coming on today. Destiny's probably tied up with her supervisor.
Yeah. I mean, I'm feeling pretty good about everything. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't often run into things that throw me off. I guess maybe the weakest sign that I have right now, the one I feel like I know the least about, is Virgo. And I kind of get, some of the basics about Virgo, but that's the one that doesn't immediately click when I think about it,
It's funny. I find some of these signs as well a little difficult. For example, some of them are so specific, like Gemini, transportation, communication, all that. Virgo is also Mercury ruled, by the way. So I think it has the attributes of Gemini, but not necessarily transportation. And Gemini is more basic education, where Sagittarius is more college and philosophies and all that stuff. Shooting for the stars, that Sagittarian thing. But I think Virgo, seems to be more about purity, food. It seems to be more related to the qualities of purification of soul. That's Mary, the mother of God. Mary is related to Virgo. If you think about the qualities of Mary, she was pure. She didn't even have sex, accordingly, right? She was somehow managed a pregnancy without it. But whether how it happened or what had happened, who knows that. But back in those days, a woman, if she's caught in adultery or having a child out of wedlock, she's of course going to be stoned. Very severe results from that. Whereas she was married to Joseph. You wonder about all this and these stories, but I'm not so concerned about their accuracy and all that, so much about that. I'm more concerned with the message it's trying to relate to us. And we say Virgo seems to be highly tied with healthcare and with food process, food in terms of what we ingest in our bodies. It's also a sign of servitude. We think of Virgo as, whereas we think of Capricorn as the boss. And Virgo was the servitude sign, and the Bible says the greatest amongst you is the servant. The servant is greatest of all. And they put a great amount of value on servitude, service. In that Christ praised that the most, people that were giving service to others. So I believe that all of the cadence signs, by the way, which is Pisces, Virgo, Gemini, and Sagittarius, tend not to be in the front of everything. They want to be more supportive in their life, in their work they do. They would rather be in the background, not so much in the foreground. They're not like, it's not about being the boss or being number one and all that stuff. It's not so aggressive in that sense. It's much more laid back, willing to do the work that somebody else might not want to do. And I think that's one of the qualities of all the cadence signs, okay? The mutable signs, forgive me, mutable. The mutable signs are mutate or change. They roll with the punches very well. They adapt quickly. Fixed signs have a hard time adapting sometimes. They need a little more fixity in their life and more permanence, where mutable, if I got a mutable cross in my chart, for example, with Jupiter, Neptune, Moon, and Ron, what's going on with you? So,
Okay.
so Neptune, okay, Jupiter, Neptune, Moon, and Venus, excuse me, Venus. So both those are benefics. Jupiter and Venus are benefics. So having them on the cross isn't so bad. I'll tend to turn, what's the expression, lemon into lemonade, you know. I'll tend to change the quality or effectively bring some good into my environment, no matter what suffering I'm going through. And when I was in prison, I ended up very often, I was running the prison. I was running the cell block, you know what I mean? The guards knew me well. They respected me. I didn't cause problems. I tried to alleviate them myself. I never got people in trouble, plus they forced me to, but I could. So I was kind of like a guard in one of these prisons. So there's kind of an adaptability and a conformity with these mutable signs and the mutable crosses. But the mutable crosses have another quality that's kind of interesting. They tend to run away from conflicts. Yeah, in other words, they mutate, they change. Look, I don't need this, okay? I really don't need this in my life. So let me just check out, okay? I don't need it. And I've done that a few times in my life. I always tell people, I say, you know, in relationships, you're either dying or you're living.
Right.
And unfortunately, a lot of people are dying. And I don't believe you should stay in a relationship if you're dying, you know? So if you're not living together and loving together and sharing a joyful life, then what's the point of it? You're supposed to go there because the book says, somebody said, you know, till death do us part. Well, death will be accelerated, I guarantee you, if you're living in a relationship like that, you know?
Right.
So, and that's another thing with counseling. You know, if I think I can make a relationship work by counseling somebody, I will. If I think, I mean, I've had clients who have gone out and had an affair and they think that it's going to be something better. And I say, look, you got a good man, you're really messing your life up, you know? And that turned out to be a one-night stand for that person. But they thought they were in love for 24 hours, you know? The person turned out to be somebody on Facebook that had a bunch of women, you know? So the point I'm getting at is counseling is a kind of a double-edged sword. You can counsel somebody to stay with a relationship. You can counsel them to leave, I believe. but you have to be very careful with that. I
Right.
told you once there was a woman in Massachusetts who was sued by a husband who sued her for alienation of affection.
Wow.
Because the woman was told that she should leave that man, and it was a bad relationship. Well, you're stepping out on a limb right there.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Not
All
to
the
mention-
advice can be very, very powerful.
Well, not only that, the man might come and get you. So,
Right.
you told me to leave my wife. You told to
Told
leave
her to
me,
leave, yeah.
Who are you? Astrologer? Okay.
So Vanita is actually in the waiting room. She says.
Oh,
she's,
she-
yeah, she can
okay.
come in.
Okay. Vanita's here.
You see her there?
There she is.
Oh, good.
There she is. Vanita, are you there? There she is. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. How are you doing?
Oh,
Hey,
my gosh,
Vanita.
you missed an hour and a half of class.
I'm sorry.
You missed the hour and a half of class.
I was working. I got here when I could. I'm glad to be here.
I'm glad you're here too. We missed you. We
Sounds
thought-
good. I just sent what you requested of me. I just sent it to your email just now. I don't know if you still need it or not, but it's there now.
We could do that. What I wanted to do, we did Destiny's chart. She's on a break with actually, it looks, yeah, she's still here. She just darkened her screen. Turned
Okay.
off the camera, but she's with her supervisor for the last half hour. So she had to deal with that as well. But we've had a great class. I think we've been really reminiscing
Absolutely.
about a lot of things. So
Yeah,
Always
I'm
fun.
starting to feel really, really good. I mean, Ron was asking, where I was at and how I feel if I had any questions. And I don't think so. I mean, I'm starting to feel really good about where I'm at and, what I understand. And I'm starting to do some reading, some charts, and, all the people that I've done readings for, they're pretty surprised at what I'm able to pick up
well, that's
already,
great. It's
Awesome.
good news.
Yeah. So everything has been, it's rolling along pretty well. I was just trying to think if there's any trouble areas, and I can't think of any. I know that Vanita and I wrote down some interesting questions maybe last week that maybe we could address today. But
Yeah, we were wondering, so we know, the cosmic key for for death, but we noticed that you do your all predictions through, you use the cosmic key. We were just kind of
Right.
wanting a little more information on that. Is it just strictly like the aspects with the transits, or how do you go about using the cosmic key for other than the death stuff?
Well, we just did. We missed that. We spent a lot of time with Destiny, and because she's leaving
Okay.
for Italy and Portugal
Okay.
on Sunday, and so we looked at the cosmic key in relationship to that trip. And
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Beautiful.
so here's the thing, and I emphasized in this reading with her. She has transit Saturn sitting right on top of her sun and all of her planets, which are in that second house, I believe.
Mhm.
And they're all, no, in the third, I think they're in the third house. I could bring the chart up again.
It's the second. She has all those planets in the second house. Yeah.
Yeah. So the point being that Saturn's sitting at 19 Aquarius, and her sun is, her moon is exactly 19 Aquarius.
Yeah,
Her
her sun's
sun-
0 Pisces.
No, the sun's at 2 degrees, I think. Oh, no, wait. It's about 2 degrees further. in
Yeah,
Aquarius.
could be. It's about right there.
Yeah. Anyway, the point being that I try to emphasize when you're doing these cosmic keys, it's not all about looking for death. I did that only to show something that is in, how would I say it? It's recorded in time, and the events of death are so obvious that you can't deny it's going to be a major aspects going on with the cosmic key. And those aspects can indicate that's coming up. It's not like people say to me, do you prophesy death? I do not. I will only use death as a possibility if I feel I can change the outcome of that. For example, the child, the 15-year-old girl that I predicted would try suicide. I saw that strong in her chart, and I predicted that she would try suicide that month by pills. I even had that information derived from that cosmic key. And when the mother heard that, who was getting the chart done for her daughter, she was like very alarmed, but she was very angry because it was one of my students, Karen, who asked me about this, and I told her that's what I see. She said, well, am I supposed to tell the mother that? I said, that's up to you. The point being, I wouldn't have predicted death as a potential if I didn't think we could intercede in that behalf of that girl. And we did.
You did that with my grandma too, and was very accurate, if you remember.
With the heart attack.
And you had my mom call the ambulance to bring her to the hospital, and they had told her if she didn't go that night, she wouldn't be here.
Is that on video? Is that on YouTube?
I think part of it was.
Yeah, I watched that video, actually. I didn't know it was your grandmother.
Recording piece. Yeah, I think part of it
Until
was.
yeah, I've seen that one.
Yeah, she didn't want to go, and my mom was like, okay, well, ambulance will be at your house soon.
Wow, wow, wow.
Yeah, yep. And the hospital, yeah, they told her that. They told my mom that too. So
He looked at a trip. My mom was moving from Florida to Vegas, and she was driving with a trailer on the back, and we looked at her chart, and he he said maybe some car problems, make sure you check the car, all of the mechanics of the car. And she ended up going on the trip, one of the axles to the trailer that she had behind her completely went out, or whatever the case was. And she was stranded on the side of the road there for a minute.
oh no.
And he predicted that accurately as well.
See?
In your first reading was what really got you started with astrology, I think, when I told you you're going to have a car accident.
My spiritual awakening, if you will, that started everything. September 1st, we had a reading, and then about 17 hours later, he said, he warned me of a car accident several times. He emphasized it. We left it, and then he went back and he said, I want to, remind you. And then he said, you'll be fine. You have Jupiter here. He said, and then he told me how to proceed after the car accident. So I want you to get out of the car. I want you to think. I did everything he said, and it was, everything was fine. The day was magical, if you will, a Pisces full moon. So
I sometimes think that there's connections also on a different level with many of my clients. I see things that I sometimes are very specific, and sometimes as a scripture, we were talking about scriptures earlier, it's written for them that run may read. It says that he created, I forgot the scripture. We were talking about the Psalms earlier. The heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament showeth his handiwork. The actual original translation was the planets declare the glory of God, and the heavens showeth his handiwork, and night unto night showeth speech, and day unto day night unto night showeth knowledge, and day unto day uttereth speech. And there is no speech nor language where their voice is not heard. And moreover, in keeping what? The planet's positions is a great reward. And by them is thy servant warned. Okay, and their line goeth out throughout all the earth. Their aspects, their lines go out. So what I see often in charts is warnings. I see things that are very specific to that client, and why sometimes I venture into making a prediction or prophecy is that I need to be very concerned with, and I think we as astrologers have a duty to do this, is to be really aware that what we say can make the event happen because people believe it. As a man believeth in his heart, so he is. So if I tell you you're going to have an accident and you believe me strong enough, you may have an accident. But in your case, yours was a good example of how it's not possible that it was caused by you thinking, because you had nothing to do with the accident. Literally, you were hit from the rear, if I remember right.
Indeed, that is exactly correct. And it was, transit Saturn was a part of that. I don't know if I had said this to you guys before, but I got rear-ended, and a piece of his like front bumper was attached to my car. I didn't find it for several hours because I drove a black car. The car that hit me was a black car. So when I pulled it out, there was a Chevy emblem on it. And then Chevy used to have a car, a Chevy Saturn. They used to make a car, a Chevy Saturn. I thought
Yeah,
that was.
yeah. I remember that. Yeah, we used to own one. A Saturn.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I have a question about just even seeing the car accidents and things like that. Is that because of an affliction in Mercury? You'll see something like that in the chart. That's warning that there could be an accident for travel.
I honestly don't recall. Vanita probably knows better the aspects. When I saw it, I do so many charts.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but what he said, I see police, I see officers, I see police. So after I got hit, it was a hit and run. I pulled off at the very first exit, right? And then I just took the first right and then went into the first parking lot I could see. I was just trying to get off of the highway. And I started to realize that the parking lot I came into, that there was like gates, like a serious gate. And then there were officers standing outside of this building. And it was some kind of maybe like a juvenile facility or something like that. So the first place I went to stop and just get my bearings was a place where officers came out, and I went to park and they were like, "What are you doing here?" And I was like, "I just got hit. I'm not trying to, but the irony is that we never had to call the police for the accident, but that there still were officers involved, coincidentally, if you will.
One of the things we saw.
Yeah.
The thing is that, you're going to find that there's a gift of prophecy that I see potentially in both of you. I see it in Jared. I see it in Destiny. Destiny's back. Good to have you back. And Vanita definitely absolutely has that. And it's something that I really am convinced that I can teach you all the mechanics in the world, and you can learn them well, the aspects, how to read them and all, but I can't give you something, you either have it or you don't, and that's the gift of prophecy. And when you begin to work in this arena, you'll develop that. It's part of the process of opening you up to this marvelous science. I think of it as science. And I think that when you start working in astrology, the tools themselves will ignite in you that prophetic ability. So, that's something that you can't teach. You can only hope that it'll evolve. And as you keep working in this field, you're going to see it happening all the time. I'm very delighted to know that you've been doing readings, Jared. That's exciting, very exciting for me. It shows the progress you've made is extraordinary. And so, we've had a lot of experiences in terms of all this. What I want to do, though, is Jared had asked me earlier if want to kind of test them a little bit. I want to just, we started talking about Neptune a lot, and Pisces and sorrow and self-undoing and prisons and monks and monasteries and all the things that Pisces represents, and Christ and the age of the fish and fish Fridays and the age of belief, which is Pisces, which is coming to an end. We're moving into Aquarius, which is reform. It's revolutions. It's so many disruptions of the normal thing. It's earthquakes. It's sudden unexpected things. It's the age we're moving into is a socially very active, justice-seeking time. It's a lot of things are going to happen suddenly, unexpectedly. That's what Uranus is all about in the 11th house of Aquarius. So sudden unexpected events. The people, the scripture says, when I think disciples said, when is this day going to come? When is it going to be? When is this age going to come? And a lot of people don't realize in the Bible, there's 7 references to the end of the world, and only 1 was world. The other 6 were referencing the age. What is the end of this age, not the end of the world? And I even heard, I went to see Billy Graham at the stadium in LA one time, in Orange County it was. And it was a stadium filled with people. You know, Billy Graham was always a hell of an evangelist and speaker, but amazing man. But I heard him talking about the end of the age and talking about this and referring to this. And I was shocked because he's a fundamental guy in many respects, but he's very open, I know, to the knowledge that even we have here. So the bottom line is that the many references to the end of the world were not even referring to the world. They were talking about what is going to be the sign of the end of this age. And Christ himself said, no man shall know the day nor the hour when the sign of the Son of Man cometh. Well, the sign of the Son of Man is Aquarius. It says, when the sign of the Son of Man appears in heaven, then shall all the tribes of earth mourn. The Christians would have you believe that Christ is coming down in the clouds in great glory. But the Aquarian symbol is what they're talking about. When the sign of the Son of Man appears in heaven, then it also says, behold, in the last days I'll do what? I'll pour out my spirit upon all flesh. Your sons and daughters will prophesy, old men will dream dreams, young men will see visions. And upon my handmaidens too, I shall pour out my spirit, and they too shall prophesy. Notice what it's saying. This age is going to bring out a lot of people prophesying. Maybe not accurately or not, but we know there are going to be a lot of prophets. And this pouring out of spirit is probably affecting both of you, or all 3 of you, considerably. The pouring out of spirit. So people don't see that when they're talking about the age of Aquarius, and they're talking about Aquarius, the man in heaven, pouring out a picture of the living waters that Christ spoke of. So we really, we're entering, what is the key word of Aquarius? It's I know. We've been in the belief age for 2,000 years. Believe, believe, believe. Believe in the Lord Jesus Christ, thou shalt be saved. All things are possible unto them that believe. But now it's about knowing. On my phone and on your phones today, you have all the knowledge in the world pretty much. It's all there. You can look up anything on any subject. You go to YouTube and learn something if you don't know how to do something. It's like it's all there. And that's the age we're entering. When I was in prison studying all this, and I used to understand many things, but I couldn't understand or have the vision to see this far ahead back in the 1960s and 70s when I was in prison. I didn't have the vision to know that when it says knowledge shall be increased in those days, that's scripture, that this is absolutely what's happened. I mean, wisdom hasn't increased. Knowledge has. What is it? Knowledge is proud it knows so much. wisdom is so humble it knows so little. You know, the more we know, the more ignorant we know we are. So anyway, so one of the things I wanted to do is I want you to kind of take you through a couple of things here. If I look at a chart and I see Mars conjunct Venus, Jared, what do you think it means?
Oh, that's love-hate relationships for sure.
Good for you. Good for you. That's easy to see, isn't it?
It is.
You know, and when you see it, I mean, I was in a marriage like that for years. The point I'm getting at is that love, a Venus-Mars aspect, if they're joined together, can cause that. If you had, let's say you have Venus conjunct Saturn, how would you define it?
Lots of pessimism in relationships for sure. I would think,
Very good.
you know, yeah. I mean, that's, you know, the main theme. I would think it kind of gets across is the pessimism and the doubting and the accusatory, you know, relationships, probably unsatisfactory relationships.
Very well, very good. It also represents probably the person's view of themselves a lot too. And Venus afflicted with Saturn. Saturn says, I'm not pretty. You know, Venus is trying to be pretty, right? Venus wants to be loved. So Saturn's saying, you know, you don't deserve to be loved. Saturn's kind of trying to call out and say, look at, you know, you got a lot of problems and a lot of guilt that's keeping you from having a good relationship. Again, remember when I give you these conjunctions, a lot depends on the aspects to that place in that chart, whether they're Saturn and Mars, Saturn, Venus. You know, if you have, let's say, Moon Mars conjunction, how do you define that?
Emotional outburst, right?
Very, very good, very good. Deep-seated anger.
Yeah, deep-seated anger, right?
Because the moon is the soul.
Right.
Okay. So it's also could be anger towards what person?
Mother.
Good. The moon is the mother, right?
Right.
I often find when I see these aspects, especially if it's confirmed by other things in the chart, there's very often problems with the stomach. Remember the stomach. I want you to start thinking in degrees of influence. For example, when we talk about the moon Mars, we generally think about the emotional state of a person, which is the moon. But we also should think about its physical repercussions, because it carries down. Moon Mars is suppressed anger. Remember, it's the soul, the moon. And it's deeply embedded in the child, usually at an early age. The anger comes from the childhood, the moon, the formative period of their life. And if it's suppressed anger, that manifests itself very often in the stomach. Because what happens is, if you're suppressing anger all the time and you keep pushing it down, it can cause stomach problems. And I've seen that regularly in charts. Very often it's an over-acid stomach, which is Mars. And whenever you see Saturn afflictions, they tend to be more skeletal frame problems, teeth, bones, slow growths that happen, skin problems, those areas. Saturn rules a lot of that. So if you've seen, for example, Saturn moon afflictions and even Mars moon, usually there's a lot of conflict in the person, especially a woman's life. There's a lot of conflict regarding relationships. Even though it's not Venus, it's the emotional pain that Mars and Saturn can cause to the moon. And Saturn is, I'm not worthy. Remember in the Bible, Peter was Satan, the devil. Christ called Peter, "Get behind me, Satan." Because Peter represented the lower consciousness, the lower self. We even use the word as to describe her penis, Peter. Okay. Peter upon this rock, we use the term, "I got my rocks." How do you think that all came about? Okay. Peter, when the cock crows thrice, "Thou shalt deny me 3 times." You got 3 words right there that are related to this sexual organ. Okay. Peter, cock, rocks. "I got my rocks." I mean, these are all terms that, where do they come from? And people don't associate it. They don't see it. They don't recognize what's going on. And read my book. If you're listening to this on YouTube, read my book. It has a whole chapter on sex and energies and Kundalini and the serpent force. And the serpent is Satan, the devil, the serpent. Okay. You can raise that energy up and it opens up the highest chakra. And you end up with a father, which is Saturn, in heaven, which is within you. "Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name." Produces that halo effect. You ever look at Saturn in the heavens? Look at Saturn in the heavens. Look what's around the Saturn in the heavens. A halo. It's a circle around the planet. "Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name." Hallowed be thy name. "Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven." Because when you raise up that energy, that Kundalini, that serpent, which is the caduceus of the healing arts, Moses was told to raise up the serpent in the desert for the healing of the nation. Think about that. What does it mean, raise up a serpent? Think he took a serpent and put it in the air? No, he raised up his Kundalini for the healing. I'll share another story with you. How about Christ when a woman but touched the hem of his garment, and she spoke out, and she just touched his garment, and Christ said this, "Who touched me? For I behold virtue has gone out of me." What's virtue? It's when a virtuous woman is non-sexual. She's not having, it's not sexual. So when he spoke, he's saying, "Who touched me? I behold virtue has gone out of me." He'd stored up that energy, the Kundalini. He'd raised it up, and it would heal instantly when she touched it. So that's where the healing powers come from. Here are people that have that touch that can heal. Okay. So yoga masters understand all this stuff. So there's a lot of yoga in Christianity, but they don't see it. But I get on a tangent, don't I?
No, that was a good explanation for sure.
Yeah,
I do have a question that's on a different topic, I guess.
that's where we're going.
Okay. Vanita and I were looking at the cosmic key, and we're looking at progressed moon influences. So sometimes we see that, we use the progressed moon, which is the 28-day cycle. I'm sorry, the 28-year cycle. And I was just wondering, when you see an affliction with progressed moon, is that interpreted as like an emotional conflict, or is it more that it can also have like the same effect as what Saturn typically has?
Yeah, it's a trigger. It's kind of like a trigger. I look at it as the new moon is like a second hand on a clock. Saturn itself is, it's kind of like the hour hand. And the progressed moon is kind of like the minute hand. And so these energies, when they all try to come together and they're all speaking the same voice, they're trying to tell you there's something happening there. For you to interpret that is the job of the astrologer.
Okay.
A lot of the things we've experienced in my work and our discussions here have been negative experiences. But when we did Destiny's chart earlier today, we saw a lot of great things. Do you remember Destiny, some of the things we saw?
My progressed moon was talking nicely to, it was quincunct Jupiter. So we said that since Jupiter is always light that we wouldn't really be dealing with too much there. I think, and then transit Saturn right now is conjunct my moon, but
Yeah.
and then what would it was sextile, or no, I believe it was
Semi-sextile.
semi-sextile with Uranus and Neptune,
And
which
what is Uranus rule?
Uranus is the collective or traveling, like foreignness.
Good, good.
Mhm.
And you're going to two countries,
Foreign.
Italy, Portugal.
Yeah, Portugal and Italy.
It
So,
also rules friends, by the way. It means you're going to find a lot of new
Friends.
friends.
okay.
Okay.
And
It
I'm
al-
going to good friends too. So,
okay. And it also was conjunct your sun within 2 degrees of your sun.
so we said gifts, celebrations too. Yeah,
Yeah.
it is conjunct my
Party time.
party. Yep.
See, I want you to understand something. If you're looking at aspects to the sun, when we celebrate every time the sun returns to its place in our chart, we call that a
Mhm.
birthday.
hmm
Okay. And what do we do on that birthday? We celebrate generally. We have cake and ice cream, and we have parties, and we have gifts. We
Yes.
have a celebration. Okay. And that's what the sun does. It wants to bring life into us and joy into us. And right now, all that's being triggered in that cosmic key, which Vanita asked about that. She said, how do you see other things besides the negative things? It's not all about negative. My book is definitely about negative. It's about death and predicting death. You say, well, who wants to predict death? Nobody does, unless I can stop it and I can intervene. And in many cases, even examples that you have shared with your own grandmother or with, with a young child that was going to commit suicide. I was able to intervene because I was able to predict and see that something was happening. The mother didn't believe. She got very angry when I told her, or when one of my students told her, because I told her, she said, well, Ron, you're telling me that she's going to try to commit suicide, this young girl. And am I supposed to tell the mother that? And I said, it's up to you. If you don't tell her and it happens, you're going to regret it. If you do tell her and she gets mad at you, you're going to have to deal with it. And guess what? She told her, and guess what? She got very angry at her. And she was very angry. She said, what do you think? I'm stupid? She says, I'm a nurse. You think I'd leave pills around the house?
Mm.
So she went home and she searched the girl's bedroom and she found a suicide note. And she found what? Pills. Have a photo of her hands filled with pills she was going to take in a suicide attempt. But it wasn't over. I said, next month it'll be worse. She's going to try something other than that. Even though we intervened and got her some help, because her mother's a nurse and she has a lot of doctor friends, and they all tried to help her. But the next month I said she's going to try something more violent, and guess what she does? The young girl.
Was that Neptune, the pills?
You know what? You remember somebody just asked me a question, what did I see it from? And I told you I do so many charts. I'm not very good at recall of all that. But
Yeah, not necessarily the transit. But for specifically to see pills, is that Neptune? Yeah.
Yeah, it was surely Neptune Pisces.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the next one was Aries influence, which was the next new moon. And she tried to slash her wrist. She did slash her wrist.
Cutting.
But she didn't die. The whole point of all this is people say to me, Ron, why do you want to see death? I said, it's not that I want to see it, but if I can prevent it, I will. If you're driving home and the bridge is out down the street and it's all dark, you think I'm not going to tell you the bridge is out? Of course I'm going to, because I don't want you to die in a car accident. So people often say to me, what's the value of that? There is value in it that you can sometimes prevent it. Okay. As with Destiny's grandmother. Okay. We were able to stop and prevent something that might have kept her, she wouldn't have lived another day probably if we hadn't intervened. So here's the point I'm getting at, that, this is the dark side in a way of astrology when I get into these things. And I only use the book to prove my point. And every time I use it, and in fact, Benita, you're getting astutely talented and working in this field, particularly with this technique. And you've seen it yourself,
Mhm.
you know? So, I'm gonna bring up, we got time, we've 2 hours we're in, but it's okay. I want to bring up my chart, and I want you to interpret it for me now with the cosmic key. All right?
Okay,
Yeah.
Yeah,
let's do it.
because she did that already for me. I know she did it. I never saw it yet. I'm like the shoemaker that doesn't have any shoes. I say, when did you do your chart, Ron? I said, I'm too busy. I'm too busy. But see, Vanita did it the other day, so let's see let me go get it first of all. I gotta get it. You sent it in my email?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Oh, here it is. Okay. All right, let's see if I can. It's really big here. I'm not sure I can, see if I can make this show up here. Well, maybe I should drag it off the chart. We'll do that. Let's see. Okay. Okay. Oops, I didn't need that. Okay. We'll get it here soon. Here it is. Okay. Okay, good. Now we can do this. Okay, so let's go back to here. And let's do this. Let's go back to share screen. And let's go back to here. All right, so everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay, good. So let's see if we can make this bigger. And Benita?
Yeah. So I actually can't find my notes on this, but that's okay. I'm pretty familiar with this one. I've looked at it a couple times, so that's
Okay,
That's okay.
for anybody that's watching this on YouTube, this is the Cosmic Key, and we have a special program. I wish it was available to everybody, but it's not at this point. I helped design this program. It's just extraordinary what it can do. But right now, what we're going to look at is the natal chart is in the center. That's my sun and Mercury here in Sagittarius in the 12th house. That's 12th house of prisons. I spent 9 years in prison. It's squaring Mars down here, exactly 5 degrees Pisces, the sign of imprisonment. It's in the second house, which is the house of money. I was convicted of armed robbery. Mars squaring my sun and Mercury in my 12th from Pisces. How much more would that speak to you? So anyway, so I think what we're going to do is we're going to turn this over to Benita. The outer ring is the transits. The inner ring is going to be the progressions, a progressed moon rather. Okay, and that's what we're looking at. So here's the progressed moon. And the other thing I want to see is transit Saturn, which is at 20 Aquarius, almost 21 Aquarius. So we're going to turn this over to Benita. Give me a reading, Benita.
All right, so we are looking for 3 witnesses. The first one I look at is the new moon preceding the event. So the most recent new moon that we've had is August 27th, and it is 4 degrees in Virgo, in Ron's 8th house of transformation.
Okay, hopefully not permanent, right?
This is also resources of partner, taxes, things like that, also death. So this new moon 4 degrees is almost exactly square Ron's sun in the 12th house, which is 5 degrees Sagittarius. And his sun is in the 12th house. I think you mentioned earlier, this rules institutions, hospitals, dreams, things of that nature. It's also square right there because his sun is conjunct Mercury. It's also square Mercury, which is also 5 degrees in Sagittarius. These are tight squares because they're only 1 degree apart, 5 degrees, 5 degrees, 4 degrees for that moon. Also, it's a opposite his Mars in the 2nd house, 5 degrees Pisces. So that's definitely going to give us our first witness. There's 3 things there supporting that first witness. Those are stress aspects to the new moon. So moving on, and they're tight aspects as well. So just supporting this witness even further. Moving on, we look at transit Saturn. So the outside wheel are the transits. You'll find transit Saturn right there in the 2nd house, 20 degrees in Aquarius. And this is squaring Ron's natal Uranus, 19 degrees Taurus. On the inside wheel is his natal chart. And this is also a tight square within one degree. Uranus being abrupt, quick, unexpected, in the 5th house there. So that's our second witness. And then if we move on to the 3rd, we look at the progressed moon. That's going to be in the middle wheel there. And the moon is 2 degrees Cancer.
Almost, because
Almost.
it's 250, I always read it to the next degree.
Okay, yeah, sure. 3 degrees, that works as well. So this is squaring Ron's natal Neptune, which is 25 degrees, let's see, Virgo in the 9th house. So it's a little bit of a wider orb, but nonetheless, something to pay attention to. Also, this is opposite his natal Venus. Again, a wider orb, a little bit, about 6 degrees, I believe, but 26 degrees in Sagittarius there in his natal chart in the 1st house.
It's actually, read it the next, look at that 44.
Yeah, okay, so 27, yep.
Yeah, get in the habit of doing that. If it's near the next orb, next degree.
Noted. This progressed moon is also square Jupiter, 28 degrees Pisces, right there in the 3rd house. So if that's 3 degrees, this is 29, about 4 degrees there for the square, the orb of the square. So that gives, yeah. So that's.
I gotta clean the pipes. Okay.
Oh, clean. Okay, that confused me for 1 second. All right, so there we have our 3 witnesses. So we found stress aspects to the new moon. We found stress aspects to transit Saturn, and then we found stress aspects with the progressed moon. So if you find 1, nothing too serious to worry about. If you find 2, just something to be aware of, maybe pay attention. And if you find 3, you really want to, you really want to pay attention if you find 3 witnesses. How about you guys? Did you guys see anything? Do you guys have anything to add to that? Considering the signs or the houses or anything like that? the 12th house there, the square to the sun and the Mercury,
Mhm.
his natal
Yeah.
12th house, that's, that's hospital. When Ron had his first heart attack, those things were afflicted there, just shedding light on, and also the sun rules the heart. So quite literally, I believe he also had an affliction, or just natally, his sun is square Mars. It's an exact square. That's literally heart being the sun and Mars being attacked. It's almost a literal interpretation. So that's where, you can kind of shed some more light on the details if you, start to consider the houses and things like that. Welcome back.
Yeah, I want to thank you because first of all, I want to share a couple of things. It's I'm not, I really regard you as an astrologer and also interpreter, and so I've been very some things that are very amazing. You remember last week it was last week I had the neck problem.
Yes.
And I couldn't, well, Uranus rules your nervous system quite accurately, by the way. And if you look at Uranus, it's at 18 degrees Taurus. What part of the body does Taurus rule?
The
The
neck.
neck.
Ah, okay.
Mhm.
And it's being afflicted by what? Transit Saturn?
Transit Saturn, yeah.
Yeah, okay. And what Saturn cause? Restriction, constriction. Okay. It tightens things up. It's calculus. It's all those things to do with calcify, harden, and my neck, by the way, still hurts. Not as bad as it was the week before when I thought I couldn't do a class. Did we do the class that week? Or
We did, right?
did it? I suffered through it. So,
Mhm.
but look how accurate this is. Uranus getting a Saturn square. Saturn constricts, restricts. It causes cramping. It locks things up. And that's what my neck's been going through since this aspect's going on. Quite accurately, by the way, and you pick that out of all those aspects. Also, I've had cramping in my legs, and Saturn, and the sun in Sagittarius rules the thighs, and Aquarius rules the lower part of the leg.
Mhm.
I've had problems with cramping even in those parts of my body. Strange thing. It's really fits this reading is amazingly accurate. As far as the heart's concerned, I'm every day I'm thankful I wake up and I say, thank God I got another day, because I've learned not to take life for granted going through what I've gone through. But praise the Lord, all of it's worked for the highest good. It really has. When people say to me, Ron, how can you tell me everything works together for good? When you went through 9 surgeries, had your chest opened up 9 times, and the pain and suffering you went through, well, it was $1 million lawsuit. How's that? So
Mhm.
it kind of took care of us for the rest of our life. But the point being is that how do all things work together for good? I don't understand it all the time. I really don't. One of the things I've always wanted to do is make sure my wife's secure in life. That's one of my goals in life, was always make sure she's secure. Well, I didn't know it was going to happen this way, but we got security. Okay. And if it took me being on this cross for a while and going through these experiences, near death many times, I guess I'm willing to exchange that for security, good security, so I don't have to worry about my wife when I do make this transition. So when we look at these charts and we look at these aspects, it's quite amazing. I also, by the way, highly regard your interpretation and your ability. I pay attention to this. I don't just write it off. I say, okay, what do I need to do to be careful not to get back in a hospital and not to have these situations occur again in my life? forewarned is forearmed, as they say. So, all I can do is say, Lord, give me another year, give me another day, and take it by that. So you blessed my life. All of you have basically blessed my life. And I'm so thankful for the opportunity to have been a teacher with you. You've taught me as much. So let's, this is the last class, but I just, we'll be back together again. I'm not certain that I can release you all that easy. But, Jared, you're kind of the facilitator for all this. So I want you to stay together as a group. Destiny's going to be traveling for the next 3 weeks or so you won't be hearing much from her, but maybe she can drop a note and some photos to all of us.
Yeah.
We can see the celebratory sun working here,
Of course.
and Uranus, good friends, all that stuff, So, but it's so accurate. It's amazing. It really is. I wouldn't have known about this Uranus aspect being triggered by Saturn right now, which is so typical of what Uranus and Taurus ruling my neck, and Uranus being the nervous system, the nerves themselves. It really is very much expressed what's happening over this last couple of weeks. And so, Benita, your blessing, and thank you for sharing that with us. You're a very talented lady. You help out Jared if you could. Destiny, I've asked Jared if he'll help you put that program on your computer so you'll have it. He said
Awesome. Thank you.
you definitely will. So if you want to do that before you leave or after you leave, it's up to you guys to work that out. We're leaving Sunday, so you've got-
Sunday. If you're free before, Gerald, let me know. I'll be very impressed with you and very happy.
Yeah, not a problem. I can help you with that, as
No,
soon as
that'd be
today if you
awesome.
want.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's on my old, I was telling Ron how this is, I got my first Mac in 2012, so I'm going to power them both up because they're definitely very dead right now.
Okay.
But those aren't the updated version, so I have high hopes that we should be able to get it on one of them.
Yeah, I bet we can.
Yeah, so I'll power that up afterwards.
Yeah, you've got the old operating system on there, so you won't have a problem.
Awesome.
And he takes over your computer, so he'll do everything for you. It's really, and he's the genius. So, and he's a musician, a talented drummer, and I wish we could have seen some of this in his life. I'd like to have been able to go to something where you play. But you're all gifted in your own way and your own talents, and I want you to continue on this path. I'll check in with you guys over the next month or two. I can't let you go that easy. And you got your diplomas, get them framed, make them good, and do it on parchment paper when you get them printed. They look good on parchment. And then you can have them framed, or there's places do that all over the place, even online. All right, my guys. And I hope that if you're watching this on YouTube, you enjoyed the class. And this is Ron Watson. We've been doing this for the last 13 weeks. And I think we've got some very talented new astrologers that are going to be doing some amazing things over the next years. So thank you so much for tuning in, and thank you for you wonderful students. And I'll be saying goodbye right here.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Ron.
Thank you, Ron.
You're welcome. I can get out of here. Let's see. Okay. Can't get out. There it is. There we go.